This is the Clark Connection Podcast, your weekly dose of inspiration and power. We'll dive deep into the stories and strategies that ignite personal growth and entrepreneurial fire. Join us as we empower you to take control, level up your leadership, and build the life you deserve. Get ready to rise, to thrive, and to finally become the leader of your own destiny. Let's go. Welcome to the Clark Connection Podcast, where we dive deep into the stories of leaders, creators, and change makers who inspire growth and impact. I'm your host, Aaron Clark, aka The Coach, and today I'm excited to be joined by Serge Villanova. Serge is a musician whose journey began around the age of 16 and has now led to the release of his debut album, Prizefighter. In this conversation, we'll explore the 5-year journey behind the album, the grit and determination that it took to bring it to life, and the role that mentorship, community, and creativity played in shaping his music. But before we do that, gotta give a quick shout out to my sponsors, especially my premier sponsor, Vicki with Hubbard Flooring Studios. Vicki and her team, they are masters at transforming spaces, laying down foundations of beauty and strength, just like the foundations we build in leadership. Whether you're looking to refresh your home or reimagine your workspace, Hubbard Flooring Studios has you covered from the ground up. So go visit her at her physical site at Boylan Avenue in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, or give her a call at 225-924-1582. Or you can explore their amazing work on their website at hubbardflooringstudio.com. Make sure that you tell her the coach told you to give her a call. And so remember, great leadership starts with a strong foundation, and Vicki and her team know exactly how to set that in place. Also, a quick shout out to our other amazing sponsors as well. Wayne with 7K Metals, see him for all your silver and gold needs. Bobbie with the Comfy Quest LLC, your destination for holistic healing and craniosacral therapy. Andrew with Automate Integrate Professional Services, bringing ease and efficiency to your business. Joseph with Landscape King, crafting beautiful outdoor spaces 1 yard at a time. And CNJ Embroidery, creating designs that make your brand pop. We're so grateful for all their sponsorship and support. If you're looking for any of these services, make sure you check them out and tell them that the coach sent you their way. They do have special deals for my listeners. Now, if you're wanting to just kind of connect with me, or maybe you have some questions on leadership or life in general, make sure you look at the link below, fill it out, submit to me. I would love to hear from you, and you can connect with me via all my socials as well. And so, real quick on our guest, Serge Villanova. And you can see that's the cover for his debut album, Prizefighter. And so, he wrote and recorded and played every instrument, the guitar, the piano, the banjo, fiddle, drums, on his debut album. He's the founder of the Harahan Music Festival and Food Drive, current board member of the Elmwood Business Association, and an ex-college athlete. Where he ran cross country for LSU. And so, whether you're an artist, an entrepreneur, or simply someone pursuing growth, Serge's story is packed with lessons on resilience, inspiration, and continuous learning. So grab something to write on and with, and let's dive in. You're the prize and I'm the prize fighter. And welcome to the show, Serge.
Hey, Aaron, thanks so much for inviting me onto the Clark Connection. Really appreciate it. I'm happy to be here and talk with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I know kind of one of the big things we wanted to talk about and push, just released your first album, Prizefighter. They're available on all his streaming platforms, guys. So make sure you go out there and listen to it. But I kind of want to go back to the beginning before we start on that and really talk about, how did you get involved in what got you to wanting to create an album?
Well, yes, sir. It's just been something I've wanted to do the entirety of my musical life, which started when I was about 16. So over 20 years ago, I've been playing the guitar. I got a few of them back here, and I've learned other instruments, the fiddle, mandolin, banjo, drums, and all of those skills I would go on to implement on Prizefighter, my debut record. I played every instrument, and I recorded it myself in my home studio. And it was really just an itch I wanted to scratch my entire life. And honestly, I'd procrastinated enough to the point where one day it was, during COVID, actually, I said, I have time to do this. I have the business savvy experience, and I have the creative know-how. And now it's time to do the work and start the process. And I always thought it would take about a year at most. I didn't know it would take me 5 years to actually complete the record. And that's how long it took me, on top of a lifetime of writing the songs. But it took me 5 years of perfecting them, putting them down on tape. Well, digitally, actually, but recording them. You get the idea.
Yeah. I was about to say, wow, we still use tapes to record stuff? This is awesome.
Some people do. The way I would have done it, it would have taken me 80 years to record what I recorded on tape.
Yeah. Well, I mean, records are starting to make a big comeback. So, our vinyls, my son has one.
Yeah, I'm very familiar. My first foray into the music industry was working as an intern and eventually a sales manager for a New Orleans-based jazz record label, a great company called Basin Street Records, where I would learn quite a lot under President Mark Samuels. And it was my job to go around to all the cafes and little non-traditional retailers, we call them, in the New Orleans area, and start to develop my own business acumen and sales experience, and asking if they would sell our physical product in their stores. And that included physical CDs as well as vinyl LPs. And selling music digitally, it weighs a lot. It weighs a lot less to carry around your digital music than it does 30 vinyl records.
Well, I mean, but how are we supposed to get big and strong if we can't carry around all those records? Oh, yeah. Well, that's like, we just got back from a road trip. My son was playing there. He's part of the Human Jukebox with Southern University. And so we just got back from Atlanta. And I remember on road trips, whenever you were ready to change your music, you actually had to look through the CD case or whatnot and put a new CD in. And now you're just like, oh, hey, whatever your AI of choice is, change the next song. And it's like, boop, next song.
Yeah. You have to keep, if you're of a certain age, you have to keep a couple CDs on you. And that goes into testing your own music out as a musician. There's a lot of cool ways these days to sample your own music. They call it the car test. You take what you're demoing and you want to rock out to it and see if it really hits. You pop it in the car and take a little spin and see how your own music is sounding and sampling it before you kind of commit to it. You know what I mean? And so you can do that these days. Dropbox is an awesome product. But, sometimes you do kind of want to burn it onto a CD and get the full effect of changing the songs and the sequencing of the songs, and getting that right. Getting the sequencing down is a science all itself. That took me probably a few months. I had some help. A friend of mine, Kate Baxter, she's a great New Orleans singer in her own right, but she helped me sequence the songs, because after I had the 8 original songs done, I just wanted to make sure they were sort of stacked and sequenced in a way that would make them all kind of come alive in the one body of music that is the album.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess that's something that I would have never thought of, just thinking about, all right, how do you want the order of the songs? Because that does make a huge, huge impact on the experience.
It was part of the learning experience, and I thought it would be easier than it was, but they all live together in a funny way. And you want to obviously start off the record with your strongest. You would think, start off anything the strongest you can, but I guess it's almost like a race. I'll go back to like a high school cross country analogy where like you can't really start the race off as fast as you can because you won't be finishing in that top 10.
Well, I was going to say, I didn't have a race in that aspect, but I could definitely understand how you wouldn't want to just start all right, I'm going to sprint. And then you're done after that.
Which, people do that all the time. They call it, it's called the West Bank start, actually. It's a full sprint. And then the rest of the race, it's not very good.
Interesting. Nice to know that the West Bank has its own start. Living in infamy everywhere we go.
Hey, not on Prizefighter. I really draw a lot of inspiration from sort of I call it the haunting landscapes of the South and of this region. And I really feel like I kind of put that to my music and to the lyrics and the music. And I live in a town called the Harahan, right by the levee. And, many a time I could just go on the levee and try and just look at the foliage and look at the vegetation and look at the Mississippi River. And, it's always sort of calming and it's always inspiring. And it really has a good effect on my music. And that's a part of what I wanted to express in my songs and on my record Prizefighter. The essence of the South.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know you'd put it out like as you were going through and testing, and that was kind of like cool. What I was able to kind of jump in and like, all right, I know when you did the 3, and I was like, I really liked what was it, Edge of Love, Walking on the Edge of Love.
Yeah, Walking on the Edge of Love. Thank you very much.
Love that.
Yeah, and it makes more sense when I inform your audience that my record label is actually called Stranded South. So there is a thread throughout the music and throughout the creativity of things that I do through my LLC, through my company, through my record label.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it was definitely a lot of fun to go through and be able to be a part of that, kind of coming in and seeing it. And just being able to give honest feedback and knowing that I wasn't going to offend you because,
no, that's it.
That's what we want as entrepreneurs. We want honest feedback.
Yeah, it's really a cool thing to reconnect with someone like you that I've known in the past, just from making music, essentially, and then sending it to you to get your feedback. And you gave me your feedback, and you said, "Hey, I also do this podcast. Come hang out." And so I really and who knows where this will lead. And so that's kind of a really fun thing of finally doing something that you've been wanting to do your whole life. And it could be a record, it could be some kind of project, it could be anything. You never really know the kind of friends you're going to meet, the kind of people you're going to reconnect with, and you never really know where it's going to lead.
Oh, absolutely. No, that's been one of the fun things about the podcast. It's brought a lot of people back into it, or into my life, like you were saying, just being on, people see it. Oh, so you've got to know something about something. I'm like, I know nothing about nothing, but trying to help other people out as they go along their journey.
Yeah, the lessons, the lessons never stop coming. You just have to have the knowledge and wisdom yourself to write down, what you pick up from every other person you meet. Doesn't really matter what position they hold or what they do. But I'm a strong believer that you could learn anything, from anyone. Everybody has a lesson to teach you about something.
Oh, absolutely. And it made me think, I was like, what was the one that I learned today? I was conducting an interview, and the acronym was EAR, EAR. And it stood for, she was in customer service. She was a customer service rep, and she said it was empathize, apologize, and reassure. I was like, cool. I'm going to be using that because that's how we should handle upset students or upset people in our lives. That's a great way to handle objections. Was glad to learn that today.
Absolutely.
And so when you were going through, now you said it took 5 years. I know one that we talked about kind of in the beginning and setting it up, that or as we were getting ready, was you were talking about the grit and determination that it took to get through and actually record the album. But let's talk about that a little bit more. You know, everybody sees the ups and they're like, oh wow, he's doing this cool thing. But let's talk about the downs, the dirty, the hard work.
Well, you know, I tried to, I tried to express those experiences in the music, you know, and even in the artwork. You know, I mean, here's a picture of the, basically this is well, let me get a better one. Actually, here's the CD, and it's me in my shed, a banjo and a washboard. But the album was recorded in my home studio, in my my back shed. Something I kind of fixed up to record in. It was in a rustic environment that the music was recorded in. This is a country record. This is rhythm and blues, mostly. And so, you know, I was out there for 5 years through numerous seasons, cold, hot. You know, it wasn't in the lap of luxury that the record was produced. And I feel that much better and more confident in it at this point, you know, and kind of happy it's over. I'm looking forward to the next recording scenario, which I'm hoping will be a little less tough. But in terms of, you know, as an artist, keeping your edge, you know, and just keeping like a sort of like a fierce kind of like seriousness about getting something done. It was a good environment for that. And it certainly just kind of helped toughen me up as an artist, as a musician, perhaps as a person a little bit. And so, you know, when I was a runner in high school, you know, finishing strong was always of the utmost importance. You know, you had to finish in the final shoot as hard as you can go, because that was the end of the race. And it's really not until you get a little bit older that you realize that, you know, that is sort of I don't want to sound too sort of like wordy here, but it almost is an elementary construct to think of the finish line, because in real life, there is no finish line. You have to keep going. You have to keep pushing. You know, every year, there might be something else you want to do. And, you know, there's really, if there are rewards, if there are highs, they're going to be short-lived. And same thing if there are lows. So you can't get too stuck on the wins and you can't get too stuck on the losses. You just need to keep looking forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, guys, if y'all like what you heard so far, make sure you give the show a like, subscribe, follow, do all the little buttons, all the things that to help us continue bringing great guests that like Serge on here.
This podcast, because, you know, a lot of these this is really just a real conversation that Aaron has with his guests, and that's it. Please like this podcast.
I appreciate that. And kind of wanting to go back. So you're talking about finishing strong, and I thought it was cool, you know, as we were talking and getting ready and kind of doing a little prep talk. And you'd said one thing that's always hit home with me, but I'd forgotten about. And you were talking about, you know, emotion keeps you going, that it's discipline that keeps you growing, and it's the grit that gets you through. And so I really, let's talk about that. You kind of touched on the emotion, you know, hey, I have time, but what, as you were getting going, like, how did that emotion turn from the determination or to determination and grit to keep going?
Well, let me sort of give you a whenever COVID hit, like I said, was when I really found myself with more time to devote toward recording a record. You know, I found myself unemployed and on food stamps, but I had the time to devote toward this project that I've been putting off. And so one day during COVID, I was looking through an old photo family album, and I started seeing some of these really cool photos of my granddad and my grandmother, some like old training photos of my grandpops, who was a paratrooper in World War
That's
II.
cool.
And these really like treasure trove of cool photos that I'd never, perhaps I'd seen them in the past, but I never really resonated with them, because at this point, looking at these pictures, I was, possibly, I think I was older than my grandparents were in these pictures, and going through something like the start of COVID. It was not a very good time for most people, but really, when you look back on kind of, what your ancestors went through, it kind of made it a little bit easier to kind of get on with, and say, hey, look, let's deal with it. So that would be that. Some of those pictures would really inspire me to write a song called Down to South Texas. And that's my grandmother, Sue, right there on the cover. My granddad on his horse right there, his brother in the background. But and this would basically be a World War II story called Down to South Texas. And this would be one of the first songs that I really recorded for the record. But the thing is, the really neat thing is that this would actually be this song wouldn't make it on the record, but this song would be a demo. This would be the initial version of what would become the title track, Prizefighter, on the record. You follow me? So Prizefighter was originally this song called Down to South Texas. So it was really so cool that in a time of kind of desperation, and like I just lost my job, and I'm thinking, I'm not sure no one knows what to do. No one knows what's about to happen, really. I really kind of felt I was hit by like a lightning strike of inspiration from beyond the grave, from my grandparents, almost giving me a piece of the puzzle of what I should be doing. And that was, I should be recording my debut record that I've been wanting to do my whole life. And it could have possibly been the last piece of the puzzle that I just needed to reverse engineer. I'm going off the deep end at this point, but you never know where you're going to find inspiration, and it could be from an old family photo book.
No, and that was cool, being able to see the old pictures. And then I didn't realize that what did you say that song was called again? That Down in South Texas?
So what the song Prizefighter, and that is the title track from my debut record, Prizefighter. The original version of Prizefighter is called Down to South Texas. And both of those songs are streaming on all platforms. Just look up Serge Villanova, my name.
Yeah, that's cool. So the original, the Prizefighter was.
So you're asking me about grit, getting through the process. I really just had motivation from, a lot of places, and it was my family living, my friends, as well as, those that had passed on, and kind of pushing me. Yeah.
And that does that, as you get in there, having that support. I was literally talking with one of my, I guess, people that I mentor. I was going to say my mentees. That the right word for that?
I think it is.
But we were talking about that, and they were just like, man, it's really starting, as I'm starting to go on this journey, really separating from people, and I don't like it, because some of them just don't want to come. And I was like, but who's in your corner now? That's the important part. And as they started listing certain people, I was like, well, lean on them. You're going through a lot of stuff. You got a lot of good things going on, but you got to lean on those people in your corner, because not everybody understands. If everybody could do it, everybody would. I'd be an NFL quarterback.
Yeah,
but I can't be an NFL quarterback.
Well, maybe one of your kids, Aaron.
Well, they'd have to play football first, okay. But it's not like I'm not going to hold true, but I mean, it's true. I mean, even just seeing, how many people want to play college athletics, and how many people want to go on and be a professional athlete, how many people actually want to record an album, don't ever do it.
Yes,
well, it comes from having the support. That support, you hit it, man. That's perfect.
As people that are, anybody they're always waiting till something's perfect, right? They're waiting till they have enough money, right, to finance a business. They're waiting till they have the right words for a song. They're waiting till their voice matures to a certain a certain talent, and you just have to start, because you can't finish if you don't start. And that's
True.
about as simple as it gets.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I tell everybody. That's why I end every single show with: you don't have to be great to get started, but you have to get started to be great.
You got a lot of
It's that simple.
You got a lot of good lines, Aaron.
Yeah, I tell everybody, if you hang around football coaches enough,
Okay.
we've got enough good one-liners. Oh man. I'm sure old Coach Augie and them had several good ones for you back in the day.
Well, where we draw inspiration, in the mentors that we've had, they really just can't be undervalued. Coach Augie, at Belchase High School, one of my old teachers from 3rd grade, Frank Jimenez, Mr. J. I don't know if you ever had him, but probably my very first mentor aside from my father. But I really feel lucky in that respect that I've gotten to meet so many people that in one way have directed me. Perhaps it wasn't their intention, but that's what I took away from the relationship. And as you get older, you realize that hopefully you still keep some mentors, but you become a mentor yourself. And that's an incredibly rewarding experience to be able to, impart that knowledge, that experience onto other people. And hopefully you still keep a couple mentors that are, that you feel that are above you, or, better than you, so to speak.
Yeah, and I mean, you never actually, even though I'm not in touch with all of my old mentors, on the daily, like I used to be. But I mean, I can look back. I know there's been several times I've actually reached out to Coach Becknell. He's answered the phone. I mean, I hadn't played for him in 20 years.
Yeah,
but they're still there.
Yeah. Mentors and collaborations can really come out of nowhere and really yield great benefits. And I bring up collaborations because and it's about 2019, 2020, I released Down to South Texas as a single. So I was kind of warming up releasing singles before I would go on to release, a collection of singles, a record, right? And so the next single I would do was a duet with a local singer. Her name is Sean Williams. And this was kind of in the throes of COVID, kind of like as isolated as it got. Things were shut down. And Sean Williams is an incredible singer. She tours the Southeast, and she's from New Orleans. And we did a song called Ghosts of a Ghost Town. And it was basically like a breakup song, but the breakup was with a city. And then the city was New Orleans in this scenario. And around this time is when I actually moved from uptown New Orleans to Harahan. And really this collaboration and also seeing Sean as kind of a mentor, someone that was accomplished in the local music industry, really encouraged me, challenged me to write a great song for her to sing on. And it really, with the song, I did reach new sonic heights in the studio as a producer. And that was because of collaboration.
Yeah, and that just kind of, when you said it, that Sean was a mentor to you, but, as somebody who is a mentor and mentors other, but has been mentored by other people, you don't have to go to the top performing person to have a mentor. It could just be somebody who's a step ahead of you. Sean's out doing stuff that you want to do. So talk to Sean. I mean, chances are getting to speak to somebody who's worldwide famous to be a mentor, not as likely to happen, but you can always meet with somebody locally who's a step ahead of you. It doesn't have to be the CEO of a company. It could be somebody who's a supervisor if you're not a supervisor.
Yeah, it's easy to get locked into your ways, if you're running a business, if you're trying to get something off the ground, if you're trying to get, it's kind of the reason that I try and send out a few songs to people that, that I may or may not have a very strong relationship with, but I know them and I get their takes on the music. And just to give me a couple ideas that I'm not seeing, to see things that I'm not seeing because I'm so, you're so deep into the thick of things.
Yeah. I'll say you're in the trees. You can't see the trees. It's so true. It's so true having that other outside view of people that can do all the, or see just something that you can't see is so important. So important.
Yes, absolutely. And, this is kind of I don't know what you would call it. It's sort of something writers say, something songwriters say, but you could relate it to many things that you can't really fall in love with your songs. You can't really think that, oh man, I can't change this. I love this lyric too much. I think writers call it killing your darlings. Essentially, sometimes you need to maybe cut a chapter out of a book for the book to flow better. Maybe you need to rewrite a chorus because it's not really gelling with the verse or vice versa, and sometimes you just can't get too attached to elements that you've really worked very hard in creating because, perhaps you can do better.
Oh yeah. It's, the mentor once told me, would you rather be right and lose or wrong and make $1 million?
Well, I'm still waiting. I've been wrong a few times. I'm waiting on the $1 million, but we'll see.
Yeah. Well, and kind of their point was like, don't be so stubborn that, hey, I'm right on whatever this is, because what's right for me might not be right for the general public. So give them what they want. That's your job.
Yeah. Try and keep an idea of what's working.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
But yeah, go ahead.
No, continue. I was going to change subjects, but keep going.
Well, as I said earlier, it was a pretty long process of recording this record. And like I said earlier, you never really know where things are going to take you when you actually do start down a path and it is working for you. You are feeling good about finally, starting a project. For me, it was starting this record. And so this is around 2021 now. I'm going back a few years. Like I said before, I'd worked in the New Orleans music industry for a long time, and I worked at probably New Orleans Jazz Fest for over 10 years, setting up our company's merchandise in the merchandising area. But in my new home of Harahan, I kind of noticed there really wasn't any sort of musical event, or there wasn't like some sort of like summer festival. And so I really thought, and at this point, it's at the tail end of COVID. And I said, you know what, why don't we have an event here? Why don't we do something? And so I would go to the city hall and ask them, what do we have to do to have a music festival? And they kind of looked at me like, Kevin Bacon and Flashdance, like I was kind of crazy. But, and here's a picture of actually me and my pops, my dad holding the first sign of the this is the first Harahan Music Festival, and we had it in May of 2021, a few years back in 2021, and that was kind of a byproduct, producing this event. It would go on to be actually a food drive as well, and since 2021. The Harahan Music Festival and Food Drive has raised over 12,000 items of food for the local St. Rita Food Pantry, which services families in need from the River Ridge and Harahan areas. And this was simply a byproduct of getting on the road to doing what I'd always wanted to do, which was recording a record. And I know the two translate. It's music and it's a music event, but I really had no idea this was going to come out of all that, but it was simply kind of, I guess, getting on that path of what I really wanted to do. And perhaps there was some clarity in that.
Right. And that was actually what I was going to go to was like, all right. And so you talked about the music festival and food drive. And so that's funny that you went there. Because you just never know how things are going to go. Hang around the Clark Connection podcast enough. We'll take you wherever you want to, guys.
Yeah, well, making music, being a writer, it could be a lonely thing where, like I show you in the cover of my debut record. I spent a couple of years in my shed in my off time, recording this record. Sort of an isolating scenario, an isolating thing, but that's kind of what it took to get the music down for me. That's kind of what my process demanded at this time, and so getting out there and actually, the first time I really thought I was onto something special with the music festival was when I reached out to Blue Runner Foods, and they manufacture Blue Runner beans, right? And I said, hey, we're looking for a donation, because that's kind of how the festival was structured. We'd get food sponsorships from local manufacturers, and we'd also get sponsorships from the local business community to actually keep the festival free. We asked that attendees bring food donations in lieu of an admittance fee. So the people bring the food, and we give it to the food pantry, and we keep the whole thing free for the residents. But here's a picture of me and a lady from Blue Runner, and I think this year was 2023. They gave us about 500 cans of beans for the food pantry, and it was dealing with Blue Runner where they would give us like hundreds of cans of beans for the St. Rita food pantry. And I thought, wow, this is pretty profound that this idea is going, and the music, is going to actually help people, eat a nicer meal than they would have beforehand. And it's sort of a deep contrast to me being in my room or being, in my recording studio alone writing a song. You know what I mean?
I do. Yeah. And that's awesome that it's done that. But I think that's important that for people to realize that even though you feel, especially as a leader, entrepreneur trying to get things going, like you often do feel alone. Like it's just me out here by myself. Nobody knows what I'm doing. Nobody cares. But then you show up to the music festival and it's like, oh, wow, there are all these other people that are experiencing the same thing. And so building that community and having that people that you can do life with is so important, especially during the struggles and the grind of doing what you eventually or what you want to do.
Yeah, and I would go on to kind of really rely on that group of people that I would meet from doing the music festival, whether they were like local council members or the local mayor, and really kind of look to them for the motivation to keep on going. And I'm still looking for that, going into its fifth year. Our fifth year of the music festival will actually be November 8th. And at the Harahan VFW on Hickory Avenue. So it's still going. And it's still tough to do, but it's worth every second of it for sure. And here's a few of those people that I've met. This is actually, this kind of juxtaposes the first sign that I showed you, but this is actually a brand new park sign that I made for the park that we have the music festival in, Zerang Park. When I initially saw the park, there was no park sign, there was no identifier, and I would go on to find out that the park was actually named after two brothers from Harahan who both died in World War II. And from there, it was kind of this funny thread because I'd written the song about my grandparents, the World War II tale a year prior, and so there seemed to be this, like the universe was just kind of like directing me in this fortuitous way.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. And I'm glad you said that it's November 8th, because I was going to ask, when is this? And that way we can get some people there, and perfect, because it's leading right into Thanksgiving. So, huge food drive time.
Absolutely.
Can go help out. And, I think one of the things that really just kind of all of it, as we're starting to kind of get towards the top of the hour, wind down on things, I know this wasn't, your first event, the first thing that you did, but one of the things that we talked about that was that not looking at something as a failure just because it didn't go the right way, that looking to try to find the silver lining, seeing what you learned from it, and what have you. Can you talk a little bit more on that?
Well, absolutely. I mean, you can think of a concert that maybe didn't go the way you thought it would. But you have to keep on going to the next one. You have to plan the next performance. You have to hope that you learn something from that performance and keep on going. I mean, and I relate that idea to doing the music festival, doing an event outside. You have to worry about the weather, and we've had years where we've done the event. I've spent 3 months out of the year planning it, taking big risks and planning it, and it just storms for 3 straight days. And we try to salvage what we could, but that's just the nature of event production in South Louisiana, is trying to work around the rain and pray it doesn't rain. That and that's the reason why we're moving it to November. That's why most people move their events to November, because the rain could be so unpredictable. But you have to look past to things that didn't go perfectly, and this kind of goes back to the idea of just throwing perfectionism out the window. Because you're never going to get something perfect. Things are never going to go the way you perfectly planned them, but you need to enjoy the process, and you need to kind of realize that later on is really when the lessons are going to kind of manifest themselves, and you'll be thankful you went through those somewhat tough times at the moment.
Right. And it's like you'd said, had you never got started on actually recording the album, you would have never come to think like, oh, hey, let's create this music festival. And had it not been unsuccessful a time or two, unsuccessful, that you wouldn't have made the adjustments to go and say, all right, here's where we're going to be best.
I wouldn't be talking to you right now, Aaron. And a lot of things would be different if I hadn't recorded those songs. And I'm looking forward to seeing where else it all leads.
Absolutely. And so one thing that I always ask people, because Serge, I believe that all leaders are readers. Not all readers are leaders, but everybody who wants to be a leader is a learner. So what would be a book that you would recommend, that, or 2 or 3 or 7, whatever, that you recommend people read who's wanting to move into that entrepreneur role, or into a leadership role?
Well, I really like, Seth Godin is a great writer who writes a lot about sort of tailoring your marketing tactics. Chase Jarvis is a really phenomenal writer. He's also a renowned photographer, and he's got a great book called Creative Calling. And that's essentially about trying to sort of awaken the creative that's inside of you, and to and to bring it to life, and to maintain it throughout the duration of your life, and kind of destroy the idea that, if you don't get successful in your 20s or in your 30s, then there's no reason for even trying to keep going, because it's all over, And that's an important thing to realize as well. But I enjoy, as an artist, as well as someone running a record label and event production company, again, that's called Stranded South. I enjoy reading fiction, like James Lee Burke. He's a great writer who writes about the South. He's based out of New Iberia, near Lafayette. And I also enjoy a lot of business books, Dale Carnegie, Napoleon Hill, that write about sort of the idea of how important relationship building is on the business front as well as in life. And so I like to bounce back from fiction to nonfiction to kind of keep my mind open to sort of the poetic aspects of reading fiction, as well as the sort of more pragmatic aspects of nonfiction and of running a company.
Yes, and fishing. Fishing is good too.
in terms of clarity, you always have to go fishing here and there.
Oh yeah. But I mean, it makes sense as you're doing the artwork and everything that you're doing, being able to draw on so many different things. It always just amazes me when you're listening to music and you can hear and you can tell how well read or how intelligent some of these writers are and artists are, because you'll hear something you're like,
it's a lot of problem solving.
Good.
It's a lot of problem solving.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of pieces to put together to make something sonically enjoyable and digestible. And I think in my case, I kind of took some of those experiences and put them towards something like putting together an actual physical event with the Harahan Music Festival and Food Drive. And so just bouncing those experiences off one another, you never get too obsessed about one thing because you have something else to focus on. And, you know, if something doesn't go right, you have to keep going.
Yeah. And that's the key. The key is the follow-up. It's to keep going and just do it and do it and do it. Don't stop.
You know,
because you never how close you are.
Yeah.
And so what's maybe one like either that you're reading right now or maybe had just finished reading a book or article or something?
Well, right now I'm reading this guy right here. This is Arnold Schwarzenegger's The Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding. This guy's thick, but I'm actually getting ready to take a personal training certification class next month, and hopefully at this point next month I'll get my personal training certification. And this is basically, you know, how to get a good workout in, and it kind of goes along with the name of my record, Prizefighter. So, you know, the athletics, you know, and the sports. The interest I have in sports and athletics, it kind of, threads the needle of my music as well.
Oh, absolutely. No,
you didn't think I'd pull that guy out, huh?
No, well, I mean, he's, I mean, I don't know what he knows about workouts or anything. I don't know that he would be a good guy to do that on. I don't tell him I said that. Yeah. And
look, that's no way to get him on your podcast, Aaron.
Well, it might be a good way to get him on here.
We'll tag Arnold that we've been talking trash about him and see what happens. Yeah.
Take that. No, don't tell him I said that. He might come back for me or something.
He'll be back.
Definitely. And so last question I always have for everybody, Serge, is what's something that I should have asked you that maybe I didn't ask you?
Oh, Aaron, this is a really great interview, and I really feel like we knocked everything out, and I don't, maybe what my plans are next, I'm hoping to, am I working on new material now? Yeah, I'm working on new material, and I'm refining older material that didn't make it onto my first record. And I am starting to plan the follow-up to Prizefighter, which will be my sophomore record. And I'm looking forward to doing that. And I'm hoping it doesn't take me another 5 years.
Yeah, but if it does, then just keep putting one foot in front of the other.
If it does, you better be around to your podcast better be around to interview me, and when you have 1 million subscribers, and we'll do another interview.
Absolutely. And I hope that doesn't take 5 years. So but we'll still be here, man. Plugging away, sharing with everybody. I just think it's so important that people know that they're not alone, and that there is a way to keep going, that there are people in our communities, South Louisiana, that are doing what you may want to do. If you're wanting to open up your own fishing tours or whatever. Well, all right, we've got plenty of people around here doing that. Then maybe I can get somebody on here that does that, and we can talk fishing tours. It's just so many cool different things that we do around here, that people are successfully building businesses that people are scared to get started because, like you said, it's not the perfect timing.
Yeah, whatever it is you want to do, it's never too late. And, you just have to throw the idea of perfectionism out the window, because it could get gritty and it can get tough, but it's very, very rewarding to scratch that itch of whatever it is you might really want to do in your soul.
Absolutely. And so, Serge, I appreciate you getting on. Where can they find the album again?
Aaron, thank you so much. Prizefighter is streaming on all major platforms. I'll put a link in the bottom in the comments. Just search my name, Serge Villanova. And Aaron, thank you so much for having me on the Clark Connection podcast.
Oh, it was my pleasure. We'll definitely have to do it again.
I'll hold you to that.
Yeah, I know you will.
It's a beautiful day to walk down St.
Wow. What a fantastic episode. Serge's story, it reminds us the true creativity that requires not just talent, but also grit, mentorship, and the support of community. His journey to completing Prizefighter shows that every challenge, every failure, and every bit of feedback can be a stepping stone towards growth and impact. And so real quick, just want to share my top 5 takeaways. Those of you that are watching, that you can see it on the screen. His first one was that the dedication fuels success. Serge's debut album, Prizefighter, took 5 years to complete, showing the power of grit and determination in seeing the vision through. Second, community and mentorship matter. Getting feedback and guidance from peers and mentors plays a crucial role in growth and creativity. Third, inspiration is everywhere. Serge drew from his personal history, his family, and southern landscapes to shape his music and his message. Fourth, using failures as stepping stones. Every setback offers lessons that can lead to stronger outcomes and personal growth. And my absolute favorite, growth never stops. Whether in music or in life, continuous learning is essential for long-term success. And so, also want to real quickly just give another quick shout out, and just like, building a great team that takes intentionality and precision, building a great space does too. That's why we're proud to be sponsored by Hubbard Flooring Studios. If you're ready to upgrade your home or office with top-notch flooring and service, give Vicki and the team a call at 225-924-1582 or visit their website, hubbardflooringstudios.com. And if you found value in this episode, remember, share it with a friend or colleague who's passionate about leadership and growth. And if you haven't yet done so, leave us a review and subscribe so you never miss a conversation that could change the way you lead. And if you're ready to take that next step towards your own leadership journey, connect with me on all socials at coach_A_Clark. I would love to walk with you. And remember, you don't need to be great to get started, but you have to get started to be great. So keep leading, keep growing, and keep innovating. Until next time, stay inspired and connected, and I'll see you on the next episode, Clark Connection Podcast. Thanks for listening to the Clark Connection Podcast, where my goal is to add value to you. Make sure you like, subscribe, and follow the show. You can also connect with me via my website, coachaclark.com, or on all socials at coach_A_Clark. The links are in the description. Huge thanks to my sponsors, Wayne with 7K Metals, Bobbie with the Comfy Quest LLC, Andrew with Automate Integrate Professional Services, Joseph with Landscape King, and Chris and Jess with CNJ Embroidery. We look forward to bringing you more great content. See you next week.